Howdy, beloved. My name is Desiree Delilah. I am the founder of the Floater School of Empowerment and the author of Killing the Echo. And today I'm going to be discussing vulnerable narcissism. Narcissism has been a word that's been used a lot over the past few years. And the more I interact with people and hear that word, the more it is apparent to me that people still don't know exactly what is going on. I still hear it used whenever someone just doesn't like another person or finds them obnoxious, or they find the person to be selfish or unpleasant. And it's easy to view anyone this way, especially when we are not conditioned to set healthy boundaries or even like ourselves. Some of us learn very young that if we are not self-debasing to make others feel comfortable, then we are inconsiderate and should alter ourselves. There's even a religion where someone is beloved for tolerating abuse and even murder on everyone else's behalf so that we may operate on a don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness life principle. Narcissism does not emerge from a consciousness of security, confidence, and inner validation. Rather, the opposite, and it can express itself as grandiosity or have a more meek and victimized presentation. It can be overt or covert. The truth is, a lot of people are one insecurity and false sense of entitlement from narcissistic personality disorder themselves. And my point here is not to re-educate you on narcissism as everything has already been said. My point is to provide you with tangible, real-world examples so that if you are still caught up in this web, you can stop gaslighting yourself and feeling responsible. Now, just like those with the grandiose presentation, those who are presenting as more vulnerable also crave admiration, attention, and control. But they do so by appearing as fragile or underestimated, which is why I also refer to it as underdog narcissism. Now, when I was younger, I thought that I was for the underdogs. I also thought it was my responsibility to save the world. Part of it was because at the time I was experiencing ostracism and harm within my own family. I didn't entirely realize it because I thought it was just normal and I was strong and it was fine. So when I saw other people who appeared to be like me, I thought they were allies. I didn't realize that I was relating to the wrong people. And I was perpetuating the same cycle that I was already experiencing in my family dynamics. As a child, I was conditioned to feel emotionally and financially responsible for the insecure women around me. I learned in school and at home that there would be negative reactions to me receiving and having. I couldn't even be complimented or rewarded without someone else taking offense. The underdogs I had been groomed to exist for were vain, superficial, and entitled. And the many people I've come across like this hate seeing people in the spotlight or receiving attention that they felt entitled to, no matter the cost of the attention. To them, these people were taking up too much space, especially if they wanted the space that these people had. They didn't have the power or the means to fight them out of their spot, so they had to take another approach. Now, all of this behavior is a means to an end, to get their needs met. However, they do alter their approach depending on who it is that they're dealing with. When they're dealing with those who come off as empowered or strong, those who have certain privileges, those who are in positions and roles of power, especially when it comes to the way we traditionally view power, the approach to harm those kind of empowered people, especially if you are someone who does have a lot of eyes on you, they have to be more careful and intentional. They couldn't just be obvious because other people would be able to acknowledge it. And with everyone's need to root for the underdog, they know that is the only way that they would be able to get away with meeting their own needs or even abusing someone who is in the spotlight. And let's say you don't have a lot of eyes on you, but people know you to be someone who's quite outspoken. Well, they have to present as someone who is meek and soft-spoken and humble and attack you in really sneaky ways. Therefore, if you act out, then it's obvious that you are the one who is the aggressor because everyone knows that you do speak out a lot. Everyone knows that you do have a pretty big mouth. Everyone knows that you are pretty outspoken and opinionated, and they will exploit this. And things like language and vernacular and cultural mannerisms. That way, if there's anything that they're doing, you would be backed in a corner, because if you called it out, you might sound problematic, especially in a world where bigotry does exist. These days, it's easier for anyone to hop on a bandwagon of certain movements for their own personal interest and make themselves the underdogs or the martyrs, manipulating ignorance, people's need to feel like advocates, and even others' needs to be validated, contributing to a collective gaslight of those who appear to be more empowered. Now, many people don't clock it because of the way we traditionally scrutinize power dynamics. Then there are enablers who care more about their perceived image of being a good person, looking like a savior or an ally, than actually being discerning, grounded, emotionally mature, and holding the right people accountable, which I'll discuss a little bit more in my video on toxic codependence versus echoing. The point is, the enablers are getting their needs met as well. Their priorities are not really helping anyone, but their own image. Their priorities are feeling validated themselves. And your priorities should not or no longer be to convince or expose anyone or make people understand. Your priorities from this point forward are building strong emotional boundaries and becoming more discerning so that you can get back on your path. This starts with understanding your programmed beliefs about yourself and what makes you feel responsible and susceptible to this kind of exploit, not because it's your fault, but to understand what has been planted into your brain without your consent, control, or even awareness. Now, I want to provide you with some examples that didn't come from a textbook, but from lived experience, so you can understand how this may play out in everyday life. You are someone who has built a lot of success due to your skills and resilience, and it's gained you a lot of visibility. But there is someone who is tired of seeing it and is tired of seeing you in the spotlight, because what makes you so special? They can't come right out and attack you. I mean, they could, but it wouldn't exactly work in their favor. So instead, they triangulate. They do things that only you and them know are a slight against you. And they only do this when they're in front of other people. They're super antagonistic behind closed doors and may even try to humble you. But when you're in front of other people, they do things that only you and them would recognize, while presenting themselves as meek and humble, or even agreeable to the other people. So should you come up against them or speak out about what it is that they're doing, or even react, it's you who looks like the bad person. It's you who looks like the aggressor. You meet a guy who's shy, soft-spoken, and swears he's been overlooked his whole life. You're not really interested. Maybe you're on the arrow A spectrum. Maybe you don't even know that. But he's persistent, and not in a charming way, but in a guilt-trippy, emotionally sticky way. He never says, "Girls like you never choose me," outright, but he implies it constantly. He'll mention how women always go for the flashy type, or that he's too real for most people. And the more time you spend with this person in conversation, you start to really believe that maybe you're just as shallow as everybody else because you won't give him a chance. Eventually, you're coerced into a relationship out of guilt or pity rather than genuine desire. And that's when the mask slips. Now that he has access to you, he starts to criticize your confidence. He minimizes your accomplishments, interrupts your stories to insult his, or calls you a little fool of yourself when you're simply proud of something. He doesn't raise his voice. He humbles you. Suddenly, he's no longer the underdog, he's in control, and you've been demoted from someone he admired to someone he needs to see as small. Because your success, your confidence, they threaten the very identity he built around being the overlooked one, the unchosen underdog. You're cast in a lead role in an indie film by a female director who presents herself as humble, soft, and radically inclusive. But when she sees you in person for the first time, something changes in her demeanor. You notice her expression, not overtly cruel, just tight, guarded, taken aback by you. Every time you're friendly or bubbly, she side-eyes one of her friends or everybody else in the group as if to insinuate that you're the ditzy, pretty idiot. She doesn't necessarily say it out loud, but everyone feels it. It's the glances, the smirks, and then a male actor crosses a boundary with you, and instead of backing you, she acts like you were being difficult. Her friends join in, both of them gaslighting you, suggesting that you misread the moment. Or somehow you led the person on by being yourself and being attractive. Between takes, she makes sly comments about your body, with various microaggressions, or might straight up call you a bag of bones. Later, you hear her telling someone how grateful she is to see women with her body type finally being represented. She tells a long, sad story about always being overlooked, not feeling beautiful, always being the friend. The thing is, she only displays this level of vulnerability when she's in the presence of men. With you, she's sharp, passive-aggressive, and territorial, and her humility is weaponized because her underdog identity requires for you to be the villain, the one who always had it easier. You're a first-generation American. You've worked hard to build a life balancing cultures, expectations, and unspoken family debts. And then one day, a relative from your parents' home country calls you up. At first, it's all warm and compliments. You've grown so well. You make the whole family proud. But then they say they need help. They want you to find someone to marry them, or for you to sponsor them so that they can get a visa. It's framed as an honor, a duty, an opportunity for you to give back, to be the one who does right by the family. You try to explain that you're not really comfortable with that, then it shifts. Suddenly, you're not the golden child. You're selfish, cold, you've forgotten your roots. You're just like a typical American now. They start layering guilt over guilt. Your parents would have done anything for family. We struggled while you got everything handed to you. All we ask is one thing, and you say no. But here's the truth they won't say out loud. It's not about love. It's not about family. It's about using your status, your passport, your stability to escape their own situation. And when you resist, their vulnerability becomes a weapon. Their hardship becomes your responsibility. Their resentment becomes your burden to carry. This can also happen for people who share the same civilian status, but they both come from low-income backgrounds, and one person was able to make it out, so to speak. Guilt trips like this happen a lot amongst family, friend groups, and people within the same diaspora. You are a survivor of abuse, and you've been invited to speak on a panel about spirituality and how it saved your life. And there is a friend who believes that people will not take her seriously if she too does not have a story. Because not every abuser was abused. So now she picks fights with you or tries to make you look bad in front of other people. So she inserts herself in unsafe situations, involves herself with unsafe or unhealthy people, and might even have a near-death experience because of her own recklessness. And anytime she gets the chance, she makes sure that whenever you're around, she interrupts you to let everyone know how she is too a victim. And she feels that when people focus on your story and your experience, or even give you kudos for your resilience, that you are taking the attention away from her. You are someone who experiences a lot of people crossing their boundaries. Men or women feel entitled to access to you and become violent when you deny their advances. You may even be in a relationship with a harmful partner as well, but everyone desires them. The person near you doesn't understand what you're complaining about. They'd be grateful to be chosen by your partner or any of the people who hit on you. To them, you have something that you're wasting and not using the way that they would if they had it. They also don't like the way people react when rejected by you when they're right there. And what makes you so special?
I remember reading this post where someone was mentioning how they were envious of a domestic violence survivor because they didn't understand what made them so special that a person would react in such a violent way just to have access to them. And it reminded me of a conversation that was being had. I wasn't a part of the conversation, but the person was having it in front of me intentionally. And she mentioned how she didn't have a story or how she wished she had a child so that she would have someone to do it for, as if struggle would make her success or what she's pursuing more legitimate, as if she'd have more credibility, as if people would give her more opportunities if she had a story. And it's also the reason why there are a lot of people who insert themselves into unsafe situations to take up space as victims when there are actual victims who did not choose the struggle that they are dealing with and surviving.
Now, the last two are examples of trauma envy, which is what occurs when someone feels envious of your trauma story because they don't have one or they don't feel that they have one as strong as yours that makes them feel resilient or garner attention. Histrionic types like this tend to murk up the waters of already complex and nuanced experiences, contributing to more harm, stigma, and isolation of their victims. I feel like it's necessary that we stop feeling the need to bring up trauma stories of obvious villains in films, because if everyone is traumatized, then what's the point? Plus, as I mentioned before, not every abuser was abused. Do you resonate with any of these experiences? If so, please leave a comment in the comment section below. And check out some of the other resources that I've linked below, where I unpack spiritual, emotional, and overall covert forms of manipulation. And remember this: fake victims hate real survivors.